I'm Peter Schrager, host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network and the Season with Peter Schrager podcast. Whether you're ordering wings for the game or you're whipping up a 7-layer dip or you're ordering a pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizzas to buy one, get one wings to whatever it is you want, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats is the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply, and see the app for details.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
Right on the money.
This week, it's one of the NFL's fiercest rivalries as the Cincinnati Bengals face the Baltimore Ravens.
Touchdown.
Coverage begins with TNF tonight. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Bengals and the Ravens Thursday, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Giants Extra Point is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Citizens is made ready for Giants fans. Hackensack Meridian Health keep getting better. Kendra Scott, game day and every day. Score a jewelry touchdown with Kendra Scott. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. And by Moody's, decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at moodys.com. Well, the Giants couldn't unlock their opportunities today. They fall to the Washington Commanders 27-22. John Schmeelk joined by Jonathan Casillas and Bob Papa here on Giants Extra Point. And JC, I want to start with you here because this to me is a defensive game, and that's where most of the deficiencies occurred for the New York Football Giants. This was a limited possession game. Each team only had 8 possessions in this game. The Commanders scored on 5 of them. 3 of them were touchdowns. That does not include the kneel down at the end of the game, which would have been another score. So the Giants just stopped the Commanders on 2 drives in this game. Just 2 punts for the Commanders, no takeaways.
Yeah, the opening drive at the game and the opening drive, their first possession of the first half and the first possession of the second half.
Both are 3 and outs.
Both 3 and outs, yep.
Hard to win a game when that's the case on defense.
Yeah, absolutely. The Giants started hot in both halves, but the Commanders figured out a way to put together drives. Sometimes they had big plays. Sometimes they didn't have big plays. Sometimes they converted on 3rd down. Sometimes they didn't. They did it on 4th down. They figured out a way to extend every single drive that they had besides the 2 that we were talking about. Even the last drive where the Giants had a chance, if they stopped them and made them kick a field goal, they still had a chance to be in the game, and they couldn't do that. And they were able to kneel the ball with them holding the ball instead of the Giants failing to do so on the offense, but they couldn't do it on defense.
And offensively, Bob, the Giants moved the ball. They had 5 drives that went 55 or more yards in this game. And I'm going to point to a possession early in the game. I know people like to focus on stuff that happens at the end, but every possession counts. That one turnover that made them -1 in the turnover ratio in this game took away one of their 8 possessions. They were in Washington territory. Last scrimmage play was on Washington's 29-yard line. They get no points out of that. That, in the end, one possession where they maybe could have scored a touchdown could be the difference in the game.
Well, between that and having a touchdown taken off the board. And we saw that happen with the Theo Johnson pass interference earlier this year. They're not good enough to overcome those kind of things. You can't have a well-executed drive that goes 80 yards or 75 yards and have a touchdown taken off the board for an offensive penalty. Now, listen.
That was a bad call. I'll say it.
You're going to watch every game today. You're going to watch the game tonight. You're going to watch the game tomorrow night. These little rub routes that are run on 3rd and shorts and near the goal line, Slayton didn't use his hands. He was trying to get to where he wanted to go. Sure, he was trying to get in the guy's way and pick him a little bit. But he didn't block him or use his hand. That happens on every short yardage play in the NFL.
He almost forced the commander to initiate contact with him.
Correct.
Yeah, they're real picky and choosy with that one. I've seen it called and not called literally in the same exact type of situation where I thought Slayton did a good job because it's called a rub route. That's a route that they run.
Of course.
Well, I said to Bob
I
at
think he did a
halftime.
good job in executing what they had him doing, but sometimes they call that. Sometimes they don't call that.
I forget who Dallas was playing, but there was a play where against the Cowboys corner, the guy running the slant basically body blocks and pancakes the Cowboys defense back in the end zone, and they picked that flag up, and there wasn't a call made there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's if his hands are up and it looks like he's like trying to block, that's one thing. But, you are allowed, if there's a defender in your way, to get to where your route is as well. And he was kind of faking like he was going inside. But those are the things that happen when you have a losing season. those are the kind of things that go against you. Every call seems to go against you. But to me, guys, this game boils down to one thing. End of the first half, knowing that they get the ball to start the third, you can't allow a 3rd and 18, and you cannot, if you're Deonte Banks, bite on a sluggo in that situation and give up a touchdown.
Let the guy catch the ball in front of you. Who cares? It's half over. You literally cannot catch the ball inside the numbers short of the goal line. They have no timeouts left. There was 11 seconds at the start of the play. You can't get up and spike that. It's half over.
And up until that 3rd and 18.
Why are you biting on the fake?
The Commanders were 0 on 3rd down. They had to convert on 4th down that drive, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't convert a 3rd down until that 3rd and 18.
Correct. All their conversions were 4th downs to that point.
Yeah. So the Giants, they did what they were supposed to do, get him into a situation in 3rd and 18, 3rd and long, where you get off the field. But we've seen it time and time again in the Bengals game. I think it was a 3rd and 17, something like that. They had a lot of touchdowns. So the Giants have to figure out how, when they get themselves in a situation that's ideal for them, which you really want, you want a 3rd and 18. You want to be able to get off the field. You want to be able to pressure quarterback, whatever the case is. Whatever coverage that you have, it's advantageous for the defense, and they haven't figured out a way to just get off the field.
Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
WFAN, WFAN-FM, WFAN-FM HD1 New York, and Odyssey Sports Station.
Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22. That's tonight's game breakdown, brought to you by our local Ford stores. One engine drives this team. For current offers, visit buyfordnow.com. Ford official truck of the Giants. We're waiting Brian Dable downstairs at the podium. And guys, I just want to go back to the offense for a second, because in the first half, the formula worked. They ran the ball. They made it a limited possession game to keep the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands. The problem is that on those drives where they did move the ball up and down the field, they only come away with those 7 points. We talked about the fumble on that screen pass. And then
that wasn't Jones's fault.
Oh, of course not. He went back to pass, turned around to throw the screen, and before he can even turn to throw it, he was getting hammered.
It was still 21-7 at that point, and they allowed 3 touchdowns in a row on defense at that point, at halftime.
Well, and that was the problem with the defense in the first half, right? The Giants only got 7 points out of their long drives. They had a 55-yard drive and a 69-yard drive. They scored just 7. They had 2 punts in the first half. Commanders just have 1 punt on their first drive, to Bob's point. 3 consecutive touchdowns, 1 on the short field. Mm-hmm. So that got helped on the defensive pass interference penalty, which was an obvious call, by the way, for some reason, despite having good coverage. And, Bob, we talked about this the first time these two teams played. Noah Brown is not a speedster. There's no reason for Noah Brown to be beating you deep on that and committing an unnecessary defensive pass interference penalty. That's another big play in the game we've been talking about.
He's like a tight end. He kind of plays like a tight end. Yeah, I just want to go back to the end of the half because, again, there was 11 seconds ago, and Washington used their last time out with the ball at the 18-yard line. If Banks just plays the outside technique and lets McLaurin catch the ball in front of him at about the 5-yard line, the odds of Washington getting down, getting set, and being able to spike it are very slim because normally teams say it's 12 seconds. There's only 11 seconds. They probably come away with no points. But even if they came away with 3, you could sit there and you could say,
that's
all
fine.
right, that's fine. But when the Giants aren't built to come back from 14-point deficits because it takes them forever to score.
I'm trying to figure out why we keep going for these 2-point conversions on when you just kick an extra point, we're down by 7. When did that starting to be a deal in the NFL? Is it just the analytics?
Do you want me to explain the analytics to you? I can do it.
Because Bob, you've been covering football for a long time. For me, it doesn't make any sense that, okay, you don't get it, then you have to get it the second time, which the Giants failed to do so today. And in games past, the Giants haven't been good on converting.
They're 0 for 6 now this year.
For the year. So it's like, I just don't understand the math. The last week we saw happen, the worst play I think Dable's ever ran in his Giants career for sure, that 2-point conversion play from last week, and then they do it today, and they failed to execute today. I just don't understand why kicking an extra point, not a field goal, an extra point, is just not a gimme at that point.
So what's your analytics argument to it?
I will give you what the mathematical argument is, okay? If, let's say, you score 2 touchdowns, you kick 2 extra points, you go to overtime, you have a 50-50 chance of winning the game, right? You get to overtime, let's say you get a 50-50 shot, all right? 50% chance of winning, 50% chance of losing. If you go for 2, all right? You make the first one. Let's say, now this might not be the case for the Giants this year. Let's assume you have a 50% chance of making a two-point conversion. That's about what the league average has been on two-point conversions over the last few years. About a 50-50 play. You make half, you foul on half. So if you make it, you're going to win the game outright half the time, okay? So you got a 50% chance of winning the game if on the first one you make the two-point conversion. If you fail on the first one, now you're in the other half of plays. You have another chance to make the two-point conversion and get it to overtime. That gives you a 50% chance of winning. If you miss the second one, obviously you lose outright. So it turns from a 75% chance of winning or a 63% chance of winning versus a 50% chance of winning.
Correct. So here's my argument that has anything to do. And listen, I don't.
I'm sorry.
You see my head shaking back and forth as you're talking.
I respect analytics because people that say analytics and they scoff at it, you're foolish because how do you think they came up with batting averages in baseball since the beginning of time? They put the better hitters up. That's a version of analytics. So it's been going on forever. Mm-hmm. My point is you can look at all those analytics, but is Mahomes your quarterback? Is Josh Allen your quarterback?
Well, it all depends
is
on
Justin Jefferson your receiver? Like, you got to also look at how your team is.
Well, it all depends on your chance. What's your confidence levels on making those two-point conversions? That's correct. All right, quick timeout. Let's come back. We'll hear from Brian Dable at the podium. I'm sure he'll be asked about it on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
All right, back here on Giants Extra Point. Giants lose to the Commanders 27-22. Brian Dable's at the podium.
All right. Tough game, competitive game. And then just didn't make enough plays to get the outcome we want. You know, gave up some big plays there right before the 2-minute at the end of the half, and those are game-changing plays that we need to make.
Coach, on those plays where they third down, they have the long passes out there. Is it technique? Is it just blown coverage? What was the take on it?
Yeah. I'm not going to get into the particulars, but we ended up making them. So, that's the tough part about it. Those were some big plays. But, make no excuse, they made them and we didn't.
What do you say to your team in there at 2-7 now?
Yeah.
Point of the season.
Yeah, I just talked about this game. So, there's opportunities that we had that we didn't capitalize on, and that's why we got the results we got.
You see, the first half was unusual. You guys ran very well.
Yeah.
And, at times you seemed very hesitant to have Daniel throw the ball. Was that, because
we were productive running the ball, like 7 yards a carry, so we kept doing that. We had the one touchdown on a play-action pass on goal line. We threw 2 screens, but we were productive moving the football. We turned the ball over on the one screen, so that was part of the plan. I thought the guys did a good job of executing, being physical at the line of scrimmage, controlling the line of scrimmage. That was the reason.
With all that, though, it was only 7. You were down 14 points.
Yeah, we gave up that one where we drove down, and then had one punt. I think we punted.
Slayton,
I know we got to ask the officials.
what do they tell you?
It's a penalty.
With how well you run the ball, any regret about calling a pass play there when you're getting chunk run, then you have the turnover on the pass play?
That was a screen. I mean, we had a huge play that they made a play on it. I mean, it would have been a pretty good play.
Babes, with the 2-point attempt, is that an analytics thing, or is that something explaining your thought process there instead of just making it a 10-point game, 7-point game?
Yeah, something that we talk about during the week, and we're getting into that situation. That's what we're going to do. But it's analytics based.
Thank you.
At what point does you guys haven't been very successful with those 2-point plays? At what point does that kind of take over from the
Yeah, I felt good about what we had, and they did a good job of stopping it.
You had the top 3 timeouts there. Why not use the timeout before the front side of the 2-minute warning?
It was 42 seconds, so they had to snap the ball, and we saved them after that. If it was underneath a certain amount, we would have used it. If it was over a certain amount when the ball hit, we weren't going to use it and let it go.
Thinking when you don't really throw the ball down the field in the first half, I know you were productive, but it only produces 7 points, right? The thinking is that, hey, it shows a lack of confidence of some sorts in your quarterback that you can make big plays out in the field in that regard.
Yeah, we were averaging 7 points a yard running the ball. we felt comfortable. That was the plan coming into the game, is we wanted to run the ball, control the line of scrimmage, and has nothing to do with Daniel throwing it or not throwing it.
Why don't you think the pass rush got home today the way it has been?
Yeah, I don't think we had really any sacks, right? Yeah, we didn't have any sacks, we didn't have any turnovers, so not good enough.
What happened to Greg Joseph?
He got hurt.
In practice, or?
Yeah.
There's a lot of kickers that have been injured in practice lately. Is there anything that you can do about that you see that keeps happening?
No.
Anything else? All right. Daniel, when it's ready, Rob will go.
That's Brian Dable at the podium. That was brought to you by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And guys, Brian Dable talked about his explanation on going for 2 and then not calling the time before the 2-minute warning. Bob, your thoughts?
Well, I guess they wanted it under 40 seconds, and maybe they would have used the timeout. I thought they were going to call the timeout there. It was 2nd and 9. I think if you call a timeout there, I think you force Washington into the mindset of now running another play to force you to use yet another timeout, start burning your timeouts. Because once Washington was smart and Quinn and Kingsbury were smart in the fact that they let it bleed down, and once they snapped the ball with 2:05 to go, now a pass play is totally in the game because you know the clock's going to stop at the 2-minute warning. I thought they would have called them earlier. They chose not to. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah, because I guess the reason you don't call one is if the Commanders do run the football there, then you basically get a free timeout, right? Because no time goes off the clock after the running play because you're at the 2-minute warning. So you do save some seconds rather than having it tick away after whenever that last play ends. So there is an advantage to it by not calling it, but it did green light. I couldn't tell live, and they did not show a good replay, JC. Could you tell, being a former defender, what went wrong on that pass defense play that Zacchaeus got wide open down the field?
No, I couldn't. It's just hard to see it, especially I'm looking at it on the field. I missed it, and I tried to see it from the TV cab. I couldn't really see it at all either.
And Carl was saying they were in some kind of zone. From up here, I could see where the play that they ran, it was almost like they ran a crossing route where the outside receiver kind of ran up the seam, and then Zacchaeus kind of cut off him. And there were 2 Giants there that looked very confused.
Newman and McFadden, I think, were kind of right next to each other underneath the route.
Yeah, 7 yards underneath the route. So it was probably a mental error that led to a big play, but that's the story of this game, mental errors defensively. And then as Carl was pointing out, too, the whole tackling situation, Jonathan. I mean, God knows how many yards the Commanders got after contact in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of mental errors and tackles, that equals big plays every single time, and that's what you saw basically all day today.
Quick timeout. When we come back, we'll hear from the players in the locker room, including Daniel Jones at the podium. Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22. We'll be right back on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
We're back here on Giants Extra Point. The Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22. Giants football is brought to you by our local Ford stores. One engine drives this team. For current offers, visit buyfordnow.com. Ford, official truck of the New York Football Giants. You know, JC, Bob mentioned to you about the tackling, how he thought the guys were trying to tackle too high on a lot of these plays, and they weren't wrapping up around the legs. Overall, the run defense, the Commanders did not have to put the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands a ton in this game. They ran the ball successfully. Their numbers overall in this game, just to bring it up here very quickly, the Commanders ran the ball as a unit. Sorry, I got the wrong game book up here.
They had 149 yards net rushing.
Exactly.
3.9 on average.
What do you think of the run defense overall?
Not bad. I mean, I think improved from the last 2 weeks, but just not enough, when you needed it. I think that's the moral of the story when it comes down to the Giants. They look good at times. The pass rush looks good at times. They didn't do, anything today in terms of the pass rush, but they don't do it when they're supposed to, at critical points of the game, momentum-changing points of the game. They fail to do so. That 3rd and 18 is when you get off the field. And then after you score a touchdown, just kick a field goal. When you fail a 2-point conversion it's like almost taken away from what you just did offensively. And that has the momentum in the stadium. And it loses the energy. The energy gets sucked out of the stadium when stuff like that happens, just like a bad play. And I just feel like the Giants just don't capitalize on what they're doing. You get into a 3rd and 18, that's good. That's a good thing that you do. And then you don't get off the field. You fail. And then you score a touchdown. It's a good thing. Then you don't convert the 2-point conversion. It's almost like they take a step forward and 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They can't figure out how to just put it together for 4 quarters. They look good at times. Daniel Jones threw some good passes today, right?
I mean, it's 20 of 26 for 174.
He looked good throwing to Theo Johnson today.
2 legitimate drops by Theo Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It just, whenever they decide to look good, which they at times did today, they didn't look good enough when they needed to. At the end, they put the ball into the defense's hands. The defense that's been, the one positive thing that you can take from definitely the 2 wins. They had 15 sacks in the 2 wins, right? They put it in defense's hands and they failed to get them off the field at the end of the game. And it comes down to those last couple plays, the ebb and flow of the game. It comes down to the end, especially in a close game like this.
Correct. I mean, because let's just play the hypothetical game. Let's just say the Giants don't go for 2 and they kick 2 extra points. You're down by 3. And you needed a stop.
Still have to get a stop.
You didn't get a stop.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether they made the 2 points or they failed on the 2 points. It doesn't matter at this point because when they needed to get a stop in this game, they never got a stop. Like you could look at the 3rd down conversion and, Washington came into the game number 2 in the NFL or whatever. They were like 46%. So you held them to 5 of 12, right? That's under 50%. But they hit the ones that mattered. They hit big plays on the ones that mattered. The 3rd and 18, again, to me was the game. And then the 3rd and 8. You just can't give those up.
And a missed tackle on that 3rd and 18, which helped them convert it. Overall, Jaden Daniel just had to throw the ball 22 times in this game. They ran it 38 times. They were the 2nd highest run frequency team in the league heading into this week, the Commanders, and they held the form, and the Giants couldn't turn them one-dimensional. And again, going down 21-7, I thought really, when we talked about this at halftime, JC, took the Giants out of how they wanted to play this game in the second half, where you couldn't just keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding it because, A, your defense couldn't get a stop, so you had to score a little bit quicker to try to maximize your possessions.
The Commanders have a different approach to how they play the Giants now. They're more willing to go for it on 4th down. They're more willing to run the ball instead of pass the ball on certain situations. They don't have, I don't think, the fear or the respect for offense or defensively because they understand what they're doing on offense. They understand what they're doing on defense. And they come in here with a lot of 4th down conversions. They didn't convert a lot of 3rd downs early in the game because they understood that if we give the ball back to this team hasn't really done anything offensively at home the entire season. So what's going to change today? And I just think that approach helped them extend a lot of drives that probably would have kicked either a field goal or a punt, but they went for it because they don't have the respect that they probably had in the past, especially because Daniel Jones has a winning record against the Commanders.
Well, and the other thing, too, is on 3rd downs where they stopped them on a 3rd and 8, they gave up 7, which enabled Washington to have a 4th and 1.
These
or
weren't
4th and
5s.
Yeah, they was all 4th and 1s.
Yeah.
So that now you allowed them defensively to get into a position where they're going to go for it, especially in plus territory.
Mm-hmm.
No question about it. Tonight's statistics are brought to you by the Archdiocese of New York. Learn more at innercitynyc.org.
Pray for us.
We have gone through a lot of these, but I'll give you the full summary here. For the Giants, Daniel Jones, 20 of 26 for 174 yards. 2 touchdowns. First 2 passing touchdowns at home this year for DJ. No interceptions, 119 quarterback rating. Tyrone Tracy, 16 carries, 66 yards, over 4 yards a pop. Devin Singletary, 7 for 33. Daniel Jones, 7 for 54. And Darius Slayton, the little inside pitch run. That was a nice little play design inside the 20-yard line from Brian Dable. He got 11. Malik Neighbors led the way with 9 catches for 59 yards. Theo Johnson, three catches, 51 yards, including that 35-yard touchdown catch down the seam. He did have a couple of those passes he had a chance to come up with, and he failed. Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 49 yards. 3 catches for Wandale Robinson, 1 apiece for Tyrone Tracy and Chris Manhertz, who had that 1-yard receiving touchdown on that play-action pass. For the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, 15 to 22, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Rodriguez, 11 carries, 52 yards. Austin Eckler, 11 carries, 42 yards. Jeremy McNichols, 8 carries, 20 yards. Jaden Daniels carried it 8 times for 35 yards. Receiving for the Commanders, Noah Brown, 5 catches, 60 yards, including a 31-yarder. Austin Eckler, 3 catches, 41 yards. He had that big catch on the final drive. Almeidas Zacchaeus, 2 catches, 48 yards, 2 catches for Terry McLaurin, both of them for touchdowns.
Just think about that. You held Terry McLaurin to 2 catches today, and you lost.
And both are pretty important, too.
Because both of them were touchdowns.
Dami Brown, 1 catch, 24 yards. Ben Sinnott had a catch. Zach Ertz with a catch as well. Team stat-wise, you guys kind of mentioned this already. Commanders 5 of 12 on 3rd down, 2 of 2 on 4th down. Giants 6 of 11 on 3rd down, 2 of 2 on 4th down. Commanders outgained the Giants 358 yards to 326 in this game. The big difference was the 1 turnover the Giants had, the fumble by Daniel Jones when he got whacked on the outside rush when Hubbard failed to block the pass rusher there. He fumbled the ball. Commanders got the ball back, scored a touchdown. So Dante Fowler then on that pass rush. So, and by the way,
and the touchdown taken off the board again. This team is not good enough to recover from stuff.
And
like
Giants, by the way, we didn't mention this. They actually caught a break on that. That should have been a touchdown for the Commanders on the sack fumble. The officials blew the play dead for absolutely no reason. That would have been returned for a touchdown if they didn't blow the play dead before the recovery. So the Giants did catch a break on that. Commanders 3 of 6 in the red zone. The Giants 2 of 3 on the game. Defensively, the Giants pass rush did not get after it as much as they should. No sacks, just 2 quarterback hits in this game. 3 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks for the Washington Commanders in this game. Micah McFadden leading the way with 11 tackles. Bobby Okereke had 9, 12 tackles for Jeremy Shinn, and Bobby Wagner had 7 tackles for the Commanders. JC, what else kind of jumped out at you about this one as we await Daniel Jones at the podium?
You mean it's okay?
All right, now we have Daniel Jones at the podium. So let's pause that. Our player interviews in the locker room are brought to you by MetLife, the official insurance company of the New York Giants. Let's join Daniel Jones on the podium downstairs.
He had so you just did this whole stat thing that was presented by one of our sponsors. He had the greatest.
Waiting for Daniel Jones. We will have that in a second from downstairs.
So he had the most greatest. There's no reporters. If I was DJ, I'd just leave. But he had the greatest.
Can you pipe us down there for him?
He had the greatest, most bizarre. He had the greatest, most bizarre halftime stat in the history of the world. Look.
Here's Daniel.
Yeah, just a zone read play there. Thought it was a good call down there, and just try to do what you can to get in the end zone in those situations.
What do you hope to improve before the next game?
Well, I mean, I think obviously the turnover was critical. So look to see where we can do a better job there. And, you know, I thought we moved the ball well, ran the ball well. Our action game and some of that stuff in the second half was productive. You know, obviously a couple 3 and outs. So look to see where we can improve those situations. Just overall have to be better.
When you score on that running touchdown, what's going through your head as you spike the ball?
Just excited to score. Big point in the game where we needed a touchdown, and yeah, just excited to get in.
How frustrating is it to have yet another loss and just can't close it out?
Yeah, very frustrating. I think, yeah, tough position. We got to find a way to make some more plays and win these games. So yeah, very frustrating.
I'm sorry if this was asked before. Were you surprised by the run pass balance in the first half? You guys were running the ball well, but hardly passing at all. What did you think about that mix of play calling?
I knew we wanted to run the ball in this game. That was part of the game plan. I think the way it played out, maybe didn't expect it to run it that much, but we were running it really well and effectively, moving the ball, controlling the line of scrimmage, and Dave's obviously felt that was working for us, and it was. So we stuck with it, and I thought it was pretty good.
I know the coach is in charge of arguing with officials, not you. But what did you think about that call on that pick play on Slayton? Did you see?
I haven't really seen it yet. I'll go back and watch the film. You're on the 2-yard line right there. The rule, you can make contact within one yard of the line of scrimmage. So see what it looked like on film. But Slade's pretty good. Wandell's pretty good in those situations. So I'll go back and look and see what it looks like.
Does running the ball that much that early take away anything from the rhythm you might have needed later for the pass game?
I don't think so. I think if anything, it helped later with some of the play action stuff that worked, controlling the line of scrimmage. We run the ball well, so we stuck with it.
Any more? Thanks, Daniel. Thank you.
PM for all your office, industrial, and residential moving needs. Trust Clancy Relocation and Logistics, the official moving and relocation partners of the New York Giants. Visit clancymoving.com.
All right, so my walkout song here. I was teasing, you did that whole stat segment.
Yeah.
The sponsor. I've never seen a stat like this. JC, have you ever seen a stat like this? Where Daniel Jones at halftime had a quarterback rating of 109. Which goes to show you one of my Phil Simms rant about, what is really this quarterback rating formula and what does it really mean?
It's nonsense.
So he had a quarterback rating of 109 at halftime. He completed 4 of 6 passes. He threw a touchdown pass. He had 0 yards. So if you just live by the diatribe of quarterback ratings and you judge everything on these quarterback ratings, he was 4 for 6 for 0 yards with a quarterback rating of 109 and a touchdown pass.
That touchdown.
Bob, we'll see you in Germany next week, my friend.
Bavarian pretzels for all.
Guten Tag, my friend. All right, thank you to Bob. Carl Banks will rejoin us in a sec. Quick timeout. We'll be back. Giants fold the Commanders 27-22 on Giants Extra Point.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
This is Daniel Jones, and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAN FM New York.
First and goal at the 2, 9:38 to go. Tracy the tailback to the left of Jones. 2 receivers tight left, Neighbors tight right. Robinson in motion right. Jones is going to keep it, runs to his left, bounces off a tackle and into the touchdown. Sturdy running by Daniel Jones as he faked the handoff, got hit at the 1, and then bounced off the rookie corner. Sanders still, and goes in for the touchdown.
Giants are going to go for 2 here.
And they failed the 2-point conversion. That was our drive of the game, brought to you by Citizens. For every scoring drive this season, Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation to support their work tackling important community issues, improving overall health, and empowering our youth. That drive, 13 plays, 80 yards. Giants converted third downs of 9, 5, and 9 yards in that drive before the Daniel Jones keeper gave them the touchdown and cut that Commanders lead 24-16. Back here on Giants Extra Point, the Commanders defeat the Giants 27-22. John Schmeelk joined by Jonathan Casillas. We're joined by Carl Banks here. And Carl, a lot of questions downstairs. I know you probably haven't heard the press conferences with Dable and Daniel Jones was about the Giants' run-pass balance in the first half and whether or not it was because a lack of trust in Daniel and if that took Daniel out of his rhythm. And I got the sense that Daniel found the line of questioning somewhat amusing. He's like, yeah, the plan was to run it, and we ran it really well, so we kept doing it, and I think that was a good thing. And Brian Dable said, yeah, well, we were averaging about 7 yards per carry, so I was going to keep running it. 21 carries, 142 yards in the first half, 6.8 yards per carry. Yeah, I'd keep running it too.
Yeah, can you give me what Jaden Daniels' numbers were?
In the first half?
Attempts.
9 of 11 for 113 yards in the first half.
So he threw 11 times, and what did he throw in the second half?
If he finished, he was 9 of 11 in the first half. He finished 15 of 22, so he was 6 of 11 times. 6 for 11.
So that's same. You can ask the same thing to Jaden Daniels. They were running the ball all over the Giants. The guy only passed when he needed to pass, right? And, I mean, listen,
If it ain't broke, Carl, don't break it. Keep running it.
Listen, there are a lot of things you can have to say, and if you want to kind of craft a narrative to somehow point to Daniel Jones or the lack of trust in it, this ain't the day.
No, it's not.
This ain't the day.
Even if you don't think he's the future and you're not a Daniel Jones fan, every game doesn't have to be his fault.
But here's the thing. A coach would get effing fired if you're getting 7 yards a pop and you decide to abandon the run. Like, that's coaching malpractice. Your offensive line would be scratching their head like, we're owning these guys. Why don't we do more of this? So, that line of questioning is just kind of trying to craft an angle, to somehow point back to something negative about Daniel Jones. I think this game really came down to poor defensive play in key situations. When you have a team in 3rd and short, it's not a crime if it's 3rd and 2 and they gain 3. You can live to fight another series. But if a team is 3rd and 1 at the 30-yard line, they're 30, and they get 37 yards on a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, it's unacceptable. The Giants, for some reason, don't know how to tackle but one way. And that is, concerning to me. Well, first of all, Jonathan, if you have 3 weeks in a row, teams are running the football on you, you would think to expect another team to run on you until you could stop it. And so Washington came in saying, well, it's working for everybody else, let us do it too. And they did it. But the most egregious aspect of that is that the Giants didn't know how to tackle, right? You see a runner get hit up top, his linemen get behind him and push him, right? And I'm like, okay, the only adjustment that you really need to make is you go to the sideline and you say, okay, first guy hold him up, second guy take his legs. Can't push the pile and you can't move unless your legs are moving. And so I was like, when are they going to smarten up and just do that? Like, I'm a tackling technician, so I'd figure it out how to get a guy to the ground and share that information with everybody on my defense. But, if you got a guy at the point of attack right at the line of scrimmage and they spot the ball 5 yards later, then somebody needs to say, hey, look, somebody hit this guy in the legs because his legs are still moving.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. And something I said pregame about population to the ball. These backs, these wide receivers, they are very talented. Paul was talking about Eckler, how he's not strong. I'm like, no, Eckler is one of the strongest guys in the NFL, pound for pound.
Yeah.
Just like he's saying, you better hit that guy low. Just because he's a small guy, he moves his legs very well. Yeah. He led the league in touchdowns like 2 years ago. He's a guy. He can do his thing. Brian Robinson's he's not the only one that can move the pile.
Right.
So I agree with him, but how do you get population to the ball without leaving your guy on a one-on-one tackle every game? Because these guys are talented. You have to get off a block.
Yeah.
We're talking about giving 100%. When you're destroying blocks away from you and still getting to the ball, you're turning a little bit higher than 100%. You're giving a little bit extra effort. And that's what we just haven't seen from the Giants this year. We haven't seen that extra effort that takes to slow this team down because the Commanders can score points. They've done it against really good defenses this year. The Giants had to be able to not only just score points, but you had to get a stop and a turnover against this offense.
I mean, getting the stop is the thing. But it seemed like Washington could constantly tilt the field with one play. If it's not them on a third down play, it's a big play in the passing game where you seem to have things covered and there's a guy running free for long yardage and you're playing some type of either quarters or man under two deep and you got two defenders at the second level that's just watching the guy run either behind them or in front of them. And I guess, I don't know if they think they're mirroring the quarterback, but listen, when a guy is running right through your zone, somebody's got to pick him up. And, this is where they are. But, last last week was a call to action on, guys doing the little things and not hurting themselves. They didn't have a single procedural penalty offensively. So
They cleaned that up.
I mean, they totally cleaned it up. They didn't have a holding call. They didn't give up a sack. Or did they give up a sack?
Two sacks.
Two sacks. They had no holding calls and no procedural penalties.
Giants just 4 penalties in the game, 51 yards. That's
and
pretty
they were
good.
all defensive penalties.
They won the offensive pass interference
Oh,
penalty.
yeah,
that
the
wasn't
offensive
besides
pass
that one.
interference,
Yes.
yeah. But it's they can't complement each other on any given week. It's either one side of the ball plays well and the other side doesn't. And they got to put it together, and they got to understand how to pick each other up and what's important, right? So, not being good tacklers and allowing teams to, this team in particular, to continuously flip the field in favorable down and distance situations for you. And, again, if it's 3rd and 1, it's okay if they get 3 yards because they're still on the backside of the 50. But if it's 3rd and 1 and they got 37 yards, then they just got into field goal range, right?
Yeah, and Carl, explosive play-wise, we like to look at these numbers every game, right? The Commanders had 5 plays of 20 yards or more. 3 of those went for 28 yards or more. They had the 42-yard pass to Zacchaeus on that final drive. You had the Noah Brown 31-yard catch on down the right sideline. And then you had the Austin Eckler short pass to the left also in the fourth quarter that went for 28 yards. The Giants had that 135-yard touchdown catch to Theo Johnson at the end of the game. On that same drive, they had a 23-yard catch over the middle to Darius Slayton, and then Daniel Jones had his 24-yard run. So the Giants had only 3 plays of 20 or more yards in this game.
And that could have been enough. But it wasn't because your defense could not get off the field early enough. And it was always a deficit. I mean, Washington just goes down. Anytime they got in the red zone, they were scoring. So.
And, Carl, I know some fans will say, well, the Commanders, they average over 30 a game. They held them to 27. Shouldn't that be enough? And I say, well, guys, time out for a second. They could have gotten another 7 at the end of the game if they wanted to. They kneeled the ball on the 1-yard line 3 times. They only punted twice. There was only an 8-possession game, Carl. This was a low-possession game.
It was fast game.
That's the key.
Well, see, the other thing, too, it doesn't matter if they scored 30 or 2, as long as it's 1 more than your team.
Right.
And that's where the Giants have got to – I mean, I don't care anything about the numbers per se. I'm looking at the execution. What are you doing to enable your team to win a football game? And last week it was procedural. This week it's tackling. And, when your offense is being productive, and even when they punted, they had some empty calories on the first drive, but they just got back on the horse the second time they had the ball and finished the deal. We got to have a defense that feels that and say, okay, let us get them back on the field again, because part of the game plan was to keep Jaden Daniels on the sideline. So that's why they were eating up so much clock. But then Jaden Daniels comes in and he says, okay, I'm going to, whatever time I got, I'm going to figure out how to get some big yards and score on this Giant defense. And, that's what it is. That's the story.
So I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. Carl, we'll start with you. What does it mean and what does it represent about a team when every week it's something else that pops up that turns a win into a loss? You mentioned last week it was procedural penalties. This week it was tackles. Go back to the previous Coleman games when they could not score a touchdown against the Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. Go back to the Commanders game at the start of the year when you had the special teams issues. You had missed field goals in another game. It's always something else that pops up that prevents you from making enough plays, or you make too many mistakes to lose a game. As Saquon does a crazy hurdle here in the Eagles game. What does that tell you about a football team?
It just tells me that there are not enough emphasis put on priority. When you're a 2-win team in the NFL, nothing is routine. You can't play like there's no important play. Every play is an important play. So when you approach a game, you approach it like every single possession is a priority possession. It's not routine. It's not we'll get them next time. You got to play for the moment and win each and every moment, or try to win each and every moment, and not bend but don't break. If you got somebody, pinned up, don't let them off the hook.
What does that tell you, JC?
I mean, this is, 16 games. It'll be 8-8. This is 9 games in, so this is a little bit past the halfway point. And I feel like at the halfway point you can start deciding who's a good team and who's not a good team. And the Commanders, man, they got a good team. They figure out how to win games. And you've seen that week in and week out. The Hail Mary last week, the first game against the Giants in week 2, they didn't even score a touchdown. They still won. And they figured out ways how to win. They figured out how to keep the Giants off the field in this game.
And that's what the Giants did in 2022, by the way. Same deal.
Found ways to win games. So now the Giants are, declaring themselves as not a good team.
Well,
and it's not just one side. Right.
It is what it is. And look, the Giants they're not a calamity. They're not a clown show.
No.
But it's just the fundamentals of the game that escapes them, and it's not a priority each and every series, each and every play, each and every game. And in order to get out of your own way when you're a 2-win team and you have an opportunity to win, the opponent doesn't give it to you. You've got to prioritize every possession and understand the importance of every possession. That means tackling, right? That means blocking. That means running. It means passing. The quarterback made good decisions with the football today. Offensive line had no procedural penalties. They ran the ball well. Yes, they had some drops that should have been caught. I don't think that hurt them in the game. I think what hurt them in this game was the defensive performance, right? Like third downs in particular, again, not just giving up third downs, but you're letting them tilt the field on every single third down conversion. And that's, in my opinion, where the difference in the game was. Because if you can hold them back on the other side of 50 and force punts, it's great. But, you're 3rd and 1, and like I said, you're giving over 20 yards and they're flipping the field. But you got to learn to be complimentary. Everybody's got to make sure that they value possessions. And this week it was the defense. Last week it was the offense. Next week, maybe they put it together. But until they do, this is going to be a recurring theme. Like, okay, they played hard. They got close enough. If 1 or 2 plays and, listen.
We're week 9. The time for moral victories is over here.
There's
right?
no such thing as a moral victory right now. You got to figure it out. And until they do, this is going to be the story. You're going to look at the scoreboard and say, boy, if they had one more possession, boy, if they would have did X, Y, and Z. Well,
they didn't.
They didn't. And that is kind of where they are. Look, great game plan offensively this week. I think they executed it as best they could, but they are not good enough to overcome just stuff that good teams can overcome because they don't get the opportunities as much. They don't create the opportunities as much.
And Carl, that's how I wanted to talk about, too, creating opportunities. When you look at defensively, they didn't turn the ball over there. They didn't take the ball away. Excuse me. Yeah. I'm not going to use the word turnover. They didn't take the ball away because that's what you got to do. Mm-hmm. You have to take the ball away from the offense. Whether you're hitting it out, you're tipping it, and you're getting an interception, whatever the case is, they didn't create a turnover. When you play a good offense, which the Commanders have, with the quarterback that can create as much as he can create with the weapons that he has on the outside, you have to go in there as a defense saying, we have to take the ball away from them.
Well,
we have to get the ball to our offense for them to have an extra 1 or 2 possessions.
So, Jonathan, you're 100% correct, but you have to know your personnel and how you want to take the ball away, right? They're not talented enough on the back end. They're young,
yes,
right? So they're not talented enough to take risk. You either got to get a strip sack, a tip football, right? If those aren't happening, if you learn how to tackle better and you get, like you say, population to the football, you get a couple guys to the football, and especially if you got the guy's legs wrapped up, somebody, the second or third guy in, can go in there and pull the ball out. But it just, they don't have that type of symmetry with their defense and their personnel. But I know they're not good enough on the back end to even take chances because they're all young.
1 interception on the year from a linebacker.
Yeah, well, they lead the league in sacks, so that that makes up for no interceptions.
Not a lot of strip sacks, though, Carl, which is surprising.
Well, yeah. I mean, Cleveland was the last one they had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
about
and
right.
Dexter's not blindsiding anybody. He's just
That's the thing,
swallowing
yeah, he's
quarterbacks
just-
up from right in front of them.
Kind of hard for a man that side to blindside everybody. He's kind of everywhere. It's hard to miss him coming. Carl, we'll see you in Germany. You have anything special planned that you want to tell the folks about with Start or everything else you're doing?
If you're coming to Germany, then stop by the Giants house. We've got some pop-up stuff and some really cool German Giants times Germany merchandise.
You got some Giants lederhosen? You ready to go? Do you really?
Yes, we do. Some really cool stuff.
Can't wait to see it. I would pay to see JC get some lederhosen on. I think that'd be fun.
No, I don't have lederhosen. I got a few other things, but not that. I'm not even brave enough to put my friends in that lederhosen. So I definitely wouldn't want to see Jonathan in it.
Carl, we will talk to you in Germany, my friend.
Man, thanks.
All right, let's take a quick
thanks.
timeout. We'll come back with more. Giants extra point. The Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
This is Theo Johnson, and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAM FM New York.
Jones back to throw. Fires it up the middle for Theo Johnson. Up the seam, into the end zone. Touchdown! They got it right on the seam route that time.
They sure did.
And Theo Johnson with his first career touchdown reception, 35 yards and with 2:48 to go. It's now the Commanders 27 and the Giants 22.
That 35-yard touchdown capped a 4-play, 75-yard drive for the Giants, a 35-yard touchdown, the Giants' longest play of the game. That cut the lead back down to one score, but the Commanders drove right down the field. The Giants never got the ball back, and they fell to the Commanders 27-22. That was tonight's play of the game, brought to you by our local Ford stores. One engine drives this team. For current offers, visit buyfordnow.com. Ford, official truck of the New York Football Giants. Let's take a look at today's scoreboard. In the 1 o'clock games today, the Falcons, they defeated the Cowboys 27-21. Dak Prescott left that game with a hamstring injury late in the second half. They had a late touchdown. Cowboys were down by 2 scores for most of that game in the second half. Bills hold on. They defeat the Dolphins 30-27. Josh Allen, 3 touchdown passes in that game. Kirk Cousins, by the way, had 3 touchdown passes in that game for the Falcons. Joe Burrow, 5 touchdown passes. They demolished the Raiders 41-24. Chase Brown, 120 yards on the ground as well. 2 touchdowns for Justin Herbert, 2 touchdowns for J.K. Dobbins. The Chargers defeat the Browns 27-10. Jameis Winston, not as much luck in his second start for Cleveland. Titans beat the Patriots in overtime 20-17 after a dramatic touchdown by the Patriots to send that game into overtime. Mason Rudolph, a pair of touchdown throws in that game. Panthers, they hold on to defeat the Saints 23-22. Alvin Kamara had 155 yards on the ground for the Saints. Andy Dalton, Derek Carr, a touchdown throw, but not enough. And the Panthers, with their second win of the year, the Giants' opponents next week in Germany, they defeat the Saints 23-22. Ravens blow out the Broncos 41-10. Lamar Jackson, 280 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 16 completions on 19 attempts. That's as an efficient game as you can have against one of the better defenses in football in the Denver Broncos. Derrick Henry, 23 rushes, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zay Flowers in that game, 5 catches, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Some games going on right now. Eagles lead the Jaguars 10-0. Jalen Hurts has a touchdown throw in that game, completing 8 of 9 passes. That pass went to Saquon Barkley. That game right now in the second quarter. 11 minutes to go in the second quarter. Cardinals lead the Bears 7-3. Lions lead the Packers 7-3. Jared Goff, a touchdown throw in that game. Rams and Seahawks are scoreless. That game at the end of the first quarter. Geno Smith, an interception in that game. And tonight, the Indianapolis Colts visit the Minnesota Vikings. Giants football is brought to you by Verizon, the official 5G network of the New York Giants. Verizon, America's most reliable network. Quick timeout. We'll come back and wrap up our network on the WFAN Giants Radio Network. Giants again fall to the Commanders 27-22.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
This is Malik Neighbors, and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAN FM, New York.
We're back here on Giants Extra Point. The Giants fall to the Washington Commanders here at MetLife Stadium 27-22. The Giants fall to 2-7 on the season. Please stick with us if you're listening to us on our flagship station, WFAN 101.9 FM here in New York. But it is time to say goodbye to the affiliates across the country on the Giants radio network. Our next broadcast will be next Sunday when the Giants travel across the Atlantic Ocean. Hello, Munich! We'll be taking on the Carolina Panthers, who are trying to create a winning streak. They beat the Saints today. They'll be going for their second straight win. I'm assuming with Bryce Young, the quarterback. We'll see if Andy Dalton gets healthy and comes back. But that broadcast will be bright and early, folks. Get whatever. Do Germans do pastries, breakfast, whatever the Germans eat for breakfast, get that ready to go. 9:30 kick. It'll be an 8:30 pregame across our radio network. Make sure you tune in, of course, and if you want more Giants coverage during the week, folks, tune in to Big Blue Kickoff Live. It is our daily Giants show at 12:30 every Monday through Friday. We talk Giants football and take your calls for an hour every day. Thanks for listening to us today. The Giants, again, fall to the Commanders 27-22. We'll see you next week on the WFAN Giants Radio Network. But if you're on WFN in New York, you're stuck with us for another hour or so. Jonathan Casillas, Paul Dottino will rejoin me, and we will take your calls at 888-808-1019. Plenty of sound from the locker room as well. Malik Neighbors, Aziz Ojolari, Dexter Lawrence, and more as we continue here on Giants Extra Point. We'll be right back with more after this.
This is Tyrone Tracy Jr., and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAN FM, New York.
3rd and 18 at the Giants 42. Isaiah Simmons checks in the ball game. Empty set for Daniels as he takes the snap. Back to throw, checks it in the right flat, completes it to De'Ami Brown, who runs out of a tackle. He's got the first down inside the 20 and tackled at the 18-yard line. 1st and 10 at the 18. Daniels back, throws it left into the end zone, caught for a touchdown. Deontay Banks never turned his head around, and Terry McLaurin beat him for the score. So they go from 3rd and 18 in 2 plays in the end zone for a touchdown. And the Commanders now lead it 20-7 with the extra point pending.
And that was our Giants turning point of the game. I took a booth poll, and I had enough people wanting the 3rd and 18 conversion as a turning point. I had some people wanting the McLaurin play as a turning point. So what do? We used them both. So if you call in and identify either one of those plays on Boomer and Gio tomorrow on WFAN in the 9 a.m. hour, you can participate in the Giants Turning Point contest. The first correct caller to name the game's turning point will win 2 tickets to an upcoming Giants home game. We're joined by Paul Dottino. Jonathan Casillas returns. And Paul, we talked about this off the top, but we should just resurface on those 2 plays a little bit. At that point, it's just a 7-point game, 14-17. You get the Commanders into a 3rd and 18 situation. I'm not going to call it a give-up pass, but let's be honest. They're throwing that pass to set up a decent field goal. They're not throwing that pass to De'Ami Brown to get a first down. And Drew Phillips, who's normally a very reliable tackler, gets stiff-armed by Brown, turns the ball upfield, gets the first down. Then on the following play, your only job as a cornerback is to not let the ball get over your head for a touchdown. If you're at the goal line and the ball's in front of you, it's either out of bounds and it's a field goal, or it's caught in the field of play and the half runs out. But Deontay Banks allows Terry McLaurin to go past him on a little fake in route back to the corner of the end zone for a touchdown, and that made it a 2-score game. It took the Giants out of being able to run the football as much as they did in the first half, as effective as they were, because you're down 2 scores, and they couldn't quite make it back all the way to come away with the victory.
At that time, when the Commanders took over the possession with about 5 minutes to go, I said to Jonathan Casillas, sitting next to me in the booth, they're looking for a double dip here. They're going to try to score, make it a 2-score game, get the ball to start the 3rd quarter, and before the Giants even touch the football again, they could be down by 3 scores.
Now, luckily, the Giants did get to stop at the start of the 3rd.
And that's the ironic part.
Right.
They give up that touchdown, yet they get the 3 and out to start the 3rd quarter, and the defense says, okay, we're going to give ourselves a chance. And the offense gets the ball, and, of course, they get a touchdown wiped off the board because of a PI on a pick called against Slayton. And, from that point forward, the Giants were just trying to dig out of the hole. And to their credit, they had 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter to continue to stay mathematically in the game. But this time, unlike the previous month, the defense could not come through with the big fourth down or fourth quarter stop to get the ball back. They've been doing that for a month. And this time it went in reverse.
We have a bunch of the defensive leaders down in the locker room talking about the Giants' defensive performance today, which has to be considered a disappointment in their 27-22 loss. Remember, 27 points, not a huge number, but Washington could have scored on their final possession. They decided to kneel it out. They only had 8 possessions. They scored on 6 of them, just 2 punts in the game. So obviously not enough. Let's start with the defensive captain, Dexter Lawrence. He talked to the media in the locker room after the game.
Dex, how frustrating was it for the defense to, when needed a few times, just couldn't quite get the stops?
Very. We got to be better. It's situational, knowing what's going on during the game and, how we got to perform during that time of the game and understand the importance of it. And that's where you got to be at your best, and we wasn't.
Dexter, when they've punted one time all day, what is it, as a defensive player, what does that make you feel like? I mean, just
that means we did good on third down, and they went on some fourth downs too. They just outplayed us.
Did you feel your offense gave you a chance to win this game today?
I think offense played well enough for us to win. Defense just got beat up today.
What happened? Why the past 2 games you guys been able to get to the quarterback with no problem? Today you guys weren't able to touch Jaden Daniels.
They had a lot of chippers. He catch the ball at 7, sits back at 12, and they was chipping. So he's gotten very comfortable real quick with the game, and he did a good job, evading the pressure.
When you were sitting here with Brian, you looked very frustrated. Is that how you feel?
Don't worry. If I'm talking to my teammates, there ain't nothing for you to be concerned about. We're just talking about the game and what we're gonna do to be better.
When you look at the big picture at 2-7, what do you take this from here as a leader?
We gotta be more precise. I think as a team and as individuals, we gotta understand the game a little more. Understand why certain things being called. Understand the importance of situations in the game and momentum shifts in the game. We haven't been good at that, and that's the thing.
How do you keep the guys hungry, motivated? What's the trick in terms of leaders?
Just understanding your why you play this sport, and who you do it for, and we grown out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta be able to motivate ourselves, and just play a simple game of football. That's it. My message is you just playing organized backyard football. And that's the approach that should be taken. Just to ease if there is any anxiety or anything like that, just to ease it and come ready to play.
Dex, did you feel in this game the way the offense was coming back in the second half, your offense, that you guys were maybe one stop away from?
They gave us a chance to win, and we didn't take advantage of it.
I mean, that's hard, right? Because
they gave us a chance to win, and we didn't take advantage of it.
And JC, I love that final answer from Dex. Great job from Pete Hoffman getting that audio down there, by the way. And Dexter's right. The offense gave this team a chance to win today, and the defense didn't, I think, hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, exactly. I've talked about the defense before being dominant, because sometimes you got to hold the team to 14 points, 10 points if your offense is not, scoring, if it's not clicking. The Giants haven't scored a lot of points at home this year. We talked about coming into this game, the high for MetLife was 15 points. I think Seattle was the high on the road. The Giants scored 29. And I don't know if they've broken 21 besides today. I think that was the only game that they had more than 20, the 29-point output in Seattle.
They've scored 20 twice, but
not over 21.
Not
though.
over 21.
Right, not over
That's correct,
21,
yes.
which is 3 touchdowns. They've only scored 29 once.
Now, they did score 3 touchdowns against the Commanders, but they didn't have the kicker. So
Right. So now today they get an offensive output that I don't think that even the defensive guys are expecting, because defensively you're thinking, what do we have to hold this team to be successful?
And the number you always give is 17, right? You don't hold them under 17.
And that's a tough task to ask when this team was averaging 30 points a game.
Oh, yeah, they're the third most highest scoring team in the league heading into this game.
Getting points from your offense, which is only scoring, 10 points a game at home, getting double, a little more than double than that. I don't know if defensively they expected more than that, but I know they expected to hold the Commanders to lower than what they allowed. And then also they didn't get off the field at opportune times. That 3rd and 18, and then again converting later on in that drive to be a touchdown instead of a field goal. You know, it's not backbreaking, but when you talk about defense and being physically tough, being mentally tough, those are situations right there that break a defense, you know. And, you know, not that they wasn't competitive, they were, but they allowed little 4th down, little 3rd down conversions, you know, missed tackle here, missed tackle there. Then you look up at the end of the game and you're like, what just happened? Our offense actually scored touchdowns today at MetLife, which they haven't done, you know, in a while. And the defense was on the field to get them off, to win the game, to put the ball back into their offensive hands, and they could not get off the field when it mattered most. They couldn't create a turnover against a team. Look, the Commanders are a good offense. They've been scoring a lot of points on everybody this year. But the Giants didn't do what it takes to create a stop on defense, to give the offense an extra possession. And at the end of the game, like Dexter said, it was in their hands, and they failed to capitalize on the opportunity that they had to get the ball back to their offense for them to do something to win the game.
Tom Canavan asked the question. Dexter Lawrence was talking to Brian Burns after the game at his locker. He's really emerged, I think, as another leader on this defense. Let's listen to what Brian Burns had to say after the game.
A more positive outlook on things that I could turn my career around, you know, and start winning some ball games and, you know, finally get to the playoffs and whatnot. You know, but like I said, it's the NFL. Just got to go as it goes. You know what I'm saying? You can't get too high, can't get too low. Sorry.
When does it get too late to turn it around in the season? Is there such a thing? Is there a moment where...
I'm not sure. That's too soon to say. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Do you still believe that this can be fixed? Do you still believe that?
NFL, stranger things have happened. You know, people go on runs all the time. So, you know, just a week ago there was a lot of 2-6 teams and whatnot. So, you know, it's just on us to, you know, capitalize off our opportunities.
But do you think this is a group or a team, knowing what you know about it behind closed doors, something that could go on a run and turn things around?
Definitely.
Casillas has been the subject of trade talks. He's played well, so there's that. What would you think if he was not here after Tuesday?
I mean, I'm always going to want, you know, somebody that's been in my room since OTA to be here. You know what I'm saying? Just the bond that I've built with him. And, you know, him as a player, like we've been able to accomplish some good things, you know, these past 4 weeks. Proud of him, you know, but, you know, it's a business first, so I understand how things work. But, you know, I would always want him here for sure.
How much do you put today on the pass rush's inability to get to Jaden? Or do you think it was just kind of a full effort there, like defensively?
I feel like defensively it was all over. You know, like I said, everything works and flows as one. So everybody has to be on the same accord to, you know, execute at a high level, and that's not what we did.
Brian, did they do any different upfront protection cuts today?
It chipped off game. You know, and usually it's one side and maybe like 4 hands on decks, but this time I feel like they were chipping both sides, 4 hands on decks, and, you know, really trying to put emphasis on, you know, stopping our rush. Probably especially because Jaden's a little banged up, so it makes sense.
Right. Do you worry that if you guys don't start winning soon, there could be coaching change here after the season?
That's not on my mind.
Let's take 2 more.
We asked you earlier about, you know, your journey here and where you come from. Obviously, you're playing the Panthers next week. This game probably got circled for a while. You going in with the same record as them. I don't even know who's going to be favored in this game.
They won today?
They won today. Yeah. What you know? What does this mean for you? I'm sure you thought you would be in a much better place than they are at this point.
It's another game. I'm not trying to blow it up to be, all that it is. But you know, I'm gonna prepare the same way I always do, and go out there and plan to dominate.
That's Brian Burns in the locker room after the game, guys. Paul, you all right over there?
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how Brian Burns is a player who was traded to this team just some months ago before the season started, got a big contract extension, and how he and Dexter Lawrence, after every loss, are easily the two most upset players in that locker room every week.
And you could tell they lead this defense together, and the players respect both their voices.
And I'll be honest with you, that's pretty cool that a newcomer like that, Bobby Okereke last year was a newcomer and was voted a co-captain, and that was pretty cool. This is also cool because Burns is making quite a large number. And many times players are accused, especially when they get to a new team, well, it's going to take them time to fit in. Maybe they can't be a leader right away. With the number that they're making, there's a lot of reasons not to be. Brian Burns is everything you would want him to be. And he busts his butt. And he's hurting, by the way. Jonathan and I have talked about this. He's been playing with a bad groin for weeks. I believe he's got an Achilles now that's going on, and he hustles his butt off every single play that he's on the field.
He did a great job on the edge early in this game. He stopped Daniels on a play outside. He stopped the run in the first half. Remember,
he shows up.
And I know people, the pass rush, was it as good as it's been in past weeks? No. But a big reason, Jaden Daniels only dropped back to pass around 25 times in this game.
Burns had a deflection, John. He did have a deflection on a pass.
22 times.
Well, those are passes. He had some scrambles and runs off the passes, too, which is, I think he had 3 scrambles.
But it's the least amount that he's had all year, right? And he talked about, stopping the rush. The Commanders wanted to stop their rush. This is the thing about the NFL. If you don't give yourself a chance to rush, meaning you don't put yourself in a situation where you can rush, then you don't have the opportunity to rush.
Look, look, things are cliches for a reason. It's because a lot of times they're true. When you give him 150 yards rushing, it's hard to rush the passer.
And what you're hearing from him is disappointed in himself and the defense. That's what you're hearing from him. I've been on the side of that. I've been on the side of really, not good teams. We talked about this too, Paul. Teams that haven't done well, and it's on the defense a lot. It's very hard to speak to the media, but you have to, right? You have to take accountability, which we're seeing from the guys that's doing it.
Dexter and Brian do it after every game.
Most importantly, you have to play better. And that's what the Giants haven't done. Last 5 games, this is what they've given up rushing. 149 this week against the Commanders. 157 last week against the Steelers. 269 against the Eagles. 121 against Cincinnati. And 175 on the win on the road against Seattle. The Giants have not been doing a good job in stopping the run. And when you look at a defense and you say, is this a physical defense? You look at a team, you say, is this a physical team? You look at if they can stop the run and if they can run the football. And the Giants the last 5 weeks has not been able to do that. And even against the Cowboys, which they were in that game at home, and they only allowed 80 points, they still lost that game. 80 rushing yards, sorry. They only allowed 80 rushing yards, they still lost that game. So the Giants are losing games in ways where they're either stopping the run and they're losing, they're holding the team to field goals and they're losing, or they're getting the ball ran down and they're getting physically controlled for 4 quarters. Because that's what we saw today. Commanders didn't dominate this game, but they physically controlled it for 4 quarters.
Well, what do I always say on Big Blue Kickoff Live? You have to be able to run the ball when you need to run the ball, and everybody knows you're going to do it.
Yep.
And in the fourth quarter, with under 9 minutes to go, I know Washington did have a big play during those 2 drives, one big play, but the truth is they ran the ball. And everyone in this building knew what they were going to do. And the Giants' defense for the past month or so has usually gotten the ball back in that spot, and the offense has failed to overcome the deficit. This time, the defense looked as if they were powerless to get the ball back. And that, to me, was the big change in this game today. And ultimately, John, for me, is extremely disappointing.
No question about it. All right, let's go take a couple calls. We're still going to hear from Bobby Okereke downstairs. We're going to have Azeez Ojulari downstairs. League neighbors, John Runyon, a couple other players as well. But I want to squeeze a couple calls in at 888-808-1019. Let's go to Steve in Connecticut. He's going to be our first caller on Giants Extra Point. Steve, what's going on?
Good evening, John, Paul, JC. Good to talk to you, gentlemen. First-time caller.
Thanks, Steve. What do you got?
I just wanted to share something quick and then get your guys' opinion and take on something. So obviously, listening to some of the comments that Jonathan made about the running game, and just, I'm not sure kind of why they abandoned the running game in the first quarter there when it seemed to really be producing yardage during the game. Do you gentlemen feel, is it something with coaching decisions? I feel like we've seen games where the defense is really on, but the offense is unable to produce. And then there's been games where, like today, the offense was able to put some drives together, put some points on the board, but defense was unable to stop the Commanders when the moment was needed. So just want to get your guys' opinion, and I'll take your comments off the air. Thank you so much, guys.
Well, let me say this. In talking to the guys downstairs, and obviously the questions came up because I believe Tracy had almost 50 yards rushing at the end of the first quarter, right?
And Devin Singletary had a good
I think,
rushing yards.
if I'm not mistaken, we had 115 at the end of the first quarter. If I'm not mistaken.
And 145 in the first half.
So the question then becomes, okay, why didn't you run the ball more? Well, the biggest problem is...
Well, they couldn't run the ball more in the first half. They only threw it 6 times.
Yeah. Exactly. And so in the second half, when you had done such a good job with the running game, you'd love to go back to that, but now what happens?
You're down 2 scores.
You're down 21-7. Game flow is against you, and to some degree you might be thinking, we've run the ball so well, and I know this is always a 50-50 thing. It could go either way, but you've run the ball so well. Maybe Washington's going to adjust. We're down 2 scores. Perhaps they'll be a little softer against the pass, and we will have pulled that defense up a little closer because of how well we've run the ball. You could make a case with the game flow and with the alternate method of trying to move the ball to try to throw it more. You could make a case.
Hey, look, the Giants scored on all 3 drives in the second half.
2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
They scored 17 points on 3 drives. And they would have had 21 if it wasn't for the offensive pass interference penalty in the end zone. So I don't think there's any complaints about what the Giants did in the second half here. They scored 17 points on 3 drives.
No.
Yeah, so,
and how efficiently they ran the football in the first half, that only gave them 7 points.
Correct.
Right.
And by the way, the Giants only had 7 legit drives in this game because one of their 8 was a kneel-down situation.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, drives of 66, 80, and 74 yards for the Giants on their last 3 possessions.
You can't ask for much more than that.
So I understand why they did what they did, and they were pretty successful doing it.
Are people complaining? Have you heard complaints about this?
Oh, there were people downstairs asking the players why you guys didn't run the ball more.
No. See, the press conferences that we heard earlier, they were asking Coach, why didn't you throw it more in the first half?
Oh, really? Okay, not in the locker room. There were some questions about the guys about why didn't you run it more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just ignore that. I think that's all silly season.
Well, anytime you lose, there's going to be all kinds of questions about everything, even if they're not necessarily intelligent questions.
Offensive play calling is not an issue in this game. I mean, it's just not.
Well,
offensive play calling is not a problem.
Now, the thing, though, I will say this, John. The penalty, obviously, a very unclutch time to get called for the pick because it cost you a touchdown.
And I did not think that was an offensive pass interference call myself. But that's me.
There was contact.
Not initiated by Darius Slayton.
I'm not so sure. I thought it was questionable.
I thought that was a bad call.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you.
And that's fine.
I always defend the officiating, and I try to find
Yes,
reasons why something's a call.
Yes, you do.
I always do that, and fans get mad at me for it.
I know.
If I was playing linebacker, I'd have been looking at the ref like, man, he picked me. He picked me.
Yeah. It was debatable in my opinion, but here's what I will say.
I thought Slayton was just running a route, and the guy ran into him.
No, I thought he did a great job in what he was supposed to do because it's a rub route for a reason.
Yeah.
It's named a rub route. You're supposed to do that, and it's supposed to look like what Slayton did. And they usually don't call it when it looks like that.
Correct.
Because he ran the rub like you're told to.
Yes.
But it was.
He didn't run into him like we've
Right,
seen. And
right.
we've seen guys to literally put their hands
shoulder.
on guys.
He was going
Here's the point.
in.
Here's the point, though. You're absolutely right. There's sometimes that's going to be called, and a lot of times when it's not going to be called.
Yeah.
But this is the part of the problem with the Giants in 2024. They are the most unclutched team that we have seen in a long time because when they need the play, and they've got to make the play, there seems to be something that short circuits it. A penalty, a sack, a turnover,
a missed field goal.
A missed field goal. Yeah. I mean,
on all three phases of the game.
Something goes wrong in the most inopportune time.
All right, let's go to Russ in Norwalk, Connecticut. He's up next. Hi, Russ.
My call, guys. John and crew there, Paul Bettino, John, the linebacker for the Giants. I appreciate your time, guys. Let me tell you why I'm calling. I called earlier in the season against a frustrated 0-2, and now I'm calling it 2-7. I'm just annoyed. Okay, here's why I'm annoyed. And Bob Papa does a great job. They scored the touchdown, okay, to go down 8 points. What does he do? He's already 0 for 4 on the season going for 2-point conversions. He ruins all the momentum by trying a 2-point conversion there instead of kicking the damn extra point and going down 7. And then, like Bob said, if we get another TD, then you can decide you want to go for the win or take the tie. I am sick and tired
but Russ, if you don't – no, but Russ, I'm just telling you, if you do it your way, you don't have the math advantage that way. You have the math advantage if you have the chance to go for 2 both ways.
You don't give the other team momentum back. You basically cut it to 7, and then if you want to go for 2, why are you going for 2? Why are you going for 2?
Well, Russ, I will happily explain the math to you right now. Hang with me, but I want to ask you a question first before I explain the math.
Go ahead.
Do you think if the Giants convert the 2-point conversion there, the Giants' defense gets a stop?
I have no idea.
They don't because they didn't get a stop the whole second half.
But John, hold on.
John, you don't know that though. I hear his point.
No, JC, time out.
I'm here with his point.
Time out. If you're the defense and you say, if we make the 2-point conversion, we have more energy. I don't want to hear that. That's nonsense.
Neither does Bob Papa, who I love, who's followed football for 50 years, as has Carl Banks. I don't give a hoot about analytics. You take the extra point. You stay within 7. I don't care what the new protocol is on that. He's already lost doing that twice this year. And again, listen, we can't win games. Listen, hold on. My point why I called was that bothers me more than anything because he hasn't learned. We haven't learned from these same mistakes that we're making as a head coach. We haven't learned, and that's what I'm ticked off about. We haven't learned, and we still haven't learned at 2-7. This is a much better team than the last 25 games. They're 8-17 or worse in their career here. In the last 25-30 games, we got a winning percentage of 30% with an all-time defensive lineman on our team in Dexter Lawrence, an all-time defensive player, by the way. So you know what, guys? Sorry, I'm tired of hearing excuses for this head coach, and I'm tired of hearing that it's all on Daniel Jones too. This is on the head coach. He runs the team from start to finish. Go ahead.
Russ, but real quick, if your point is you've shown you cannot convert those 2-point conversions, so you should ditch the strategy, I understand your point on that. That I can't argue. Past performance on those 2-point conversions, and you don't think you can make them, I understand your argument on that point of it. But that's not the way I don't think the team and the coach is going to think about it. They think, and I will explain the math to you now. Hang with us. Don't, Connor, leave them up. I'll explain the math to you, Rush, just so you understand why they're doing what they're doing, okay? And I tried to explain this during halftime to earlier in the postgame to JC. So if you kick 2 extra points there, and theoretically you have a tie game, right? You're going into overtime. Let's assume you have a 50-50 chance.
And you have momentum. Go ahead.
Let's say you have a 50-50 chance to win in overtime, right? Depending on coin toss, who gets the ball, who knows? It's a coin flip. Who knows who's going to win overtime? You got a 50-50 shot, right? Now, theoretically, and again, this belies your point about the Giants' inability to convert 2-point conversions. Historically, the 2-point conversion play around the league is a 50% play, okay? You make it half the time, you fail half the time. Last year, I believe, Paul, was actually closer to 60% make, correct?
We talked about this during the week.
So if you go for it on both 2-point conversion attempts, right, you have and again, I'll even make it a 50% shot. If you make it on the first one, you got a 50-50 shot. That means on half your opportunities in that situation, you win the game outright without overtime half the time, okay? If you miss it on the first 2-point conversion attempt, you have 50% of your chances, where on the second touchdown, you can go for 2 again. In this theoretical world, you have a 50-50 chance of making it. So you then have a 25% chance of losing outright, a 12.5% chance of going to overtime, and a 62.5% chance of winning. While if you kick the extra point both times, you're looking at a 50-50 shot. That's the math behind the double 2-point conversion. But again, that's assuming you have a 50-50 shot of making the 2-point conversion. That has
And
not
based
been the
on
case for the
history,
Giants
now
so
we're
far
0 for
this year.
6. Now we're batting
And
0.
I guarantee
Now we're
you,
batting 0.
Schmeelk, not
And
one.
Russ, I get that. Thank you for the call, man. Good call. Good points.
Not one player in that locker room give a damn about what you just said.
No, but that's why the players they hire very smart people to help the head coach.
And I'm with you because Bob said analytics are important, but it's also important about your team and understanding what's going on that field.
But look, I'll say
right?
this, JC. The bottom line, even if they kick the extra points twice, you're still losing 27-24.
No, but this is the thing, and this is what you don't understand because you keep saying no to me, and I'm telling you that's not the case. When momentum is a real thing, you score a touchdown and you fail a 2-point conversion, there's energy that gets sucked out of here, and then players defensively. I said it because I played in the NFL, and I said, why we didn't just kick a field goal? You don't think other defenders that play for the Giants said the same thing?
But you have to get a stop whether or not you get the 2-point conversion or not.
But the point is I'm trying to make, it's not all about the stadium with the momentum of the stadium. The players saying, why didn't we kick an extra point? When you have players, and I'm thinking, because I'm a player, that's the first thing I said. I said it last week. I said it this week. I'm not that far removed from being in that locker room on that sideline. If a group of guys are saying, why are we doing that? You're questioning the team. You're questioning the coach. And I know I'm not far off from them guys.
But what happens?
You understand
what happens if you make it? Do you get more energy? Do you get more motivation?
No, yeah,
then?
but you're talking about percentages. The percentages right now for the Giants is over. They're 0%. I'm with you. If you get it, you get fired up. Like, all right, shoot, now they got to go for something, a 2-point conversion because we're up by an extra point. And I get it. But just kick a field goal. Just kick a field goal. Let's play some football. Kick an extra point. Let's play football.
And
let's play football, baby.
I appreciate your point of view because I don't have that point of view from the sign. So I appreciate where you're coming from in that 100%.
Fellas, unfortunately, my gripe is bigger than both of your gripes. Because
self-proclaimed bigger gripe here. All right, what do you got?
You don't get the 2, so it's 24-16. If you get the 2, it's 24-18.
Yes.
If you get the 1 point, it's 24-17. Bottom line, 3rd and 9 for Washington from their own 38, and Eckler has 15 yards of open space in every direction when he catches that short pass over the middle and goes for 28 yards to the Giants' 36-yard line. That had to be a busted coverage.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the tape on that one and on the Zacchaeus play at the end to see what happened on those.
Yeah,
I looked up.
The
I
Eckler one
see what
first, though.
coverage they
The
were in
Eckler
on
one
both of those
first,
plays.
which puts Washington on the other side of the 50. To me, and with all due respect to the turning point that you picked earlier, John, to me that's the gut punch. That's the gut punch because you're down by one possession. And that ball right there, that pass to Eckler, puts them at the Giants' 36. Now they're already in field goal range. And, in fact, they do wind up getting a field goal and going up by 2 scores with 3.5 minutes to go. And, folks, the horse is out of the barn, and you're not catching them.
You know, you talk about the important plays, right? Individual plays over the course of the game. That's a monster one. Because you score,
it's Godzilla!
You make it a one-score game, and you're in a 3rd and 9. That is a 20% conversion rate around the league, 25% conversion rate at best. And that wasn't the only time in this game where the Giants got the Commanders in 3rd and long, JC, and they failed to get the stop.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that I think that's what you're hearing from the defenders, right? I think they're doing, I wouldn't say a good job, but they feel like they put themselves in pretty good opportunities throughout the flow of a game, and then they fail to capitalize at the times that they need to. You know, it's like early in the game, stuff happens. You know, they're down 21-7 at halftime, but then you come back and don't allow the double dip, like you said, Paul, and you get a stop right away. And then you just don't – they don't finish throughout the game. Like, throughout the game, it's like it doesn't really matter what happened in the first half. It matters about those last 2 quarters and how you finish the game. Because a lot of these games, they come to the last 2 possessions usually.
By the way, and how about we have this conversation? How about you just make a 2-point conversion? I mean,
that'll be great too.
That's allowed.
No,
that's
I
allowed.
I get it. I get it. It's just that to me, 2 point, 1 point,
Yes.
0 points.
You have to get the stop.
The
Either way,
Eckler play is the gut punch, as I see it, no matter what.
No matter what happens, you have to get the defensive stop.
That's it.
You have to. And
That's
they
it.
failed doing it on 2 separate drives, getting a defensive stop when they needed it. All right, 888-808-1019. Giants TV presented by Bob's Discount Furniture is the official connected TV app in the New York Giants. Available for free now on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and inside the Giants mobile app. Stream game highlights, interviews, TV shows, and more exclusive video content with Giants TV. Quick timeout. We'll be back, take a couple more calls, hear from Malik Neighbors in the locker room, that and a whole lot more as we continue on Giants Extra Point. Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
This is Malik Neighbors, and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAN-FM, New York.
Back here on Giants Extra Point, Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22. Schmeelk, Tatino, Casillas. Malik Neighbors was in the locker room after the game. Here's what he had to say.
Well, there were quite a few times today where you guys tried to get the pass game going, but didn't look like there was a lot of room to operate in their secondary. What were they doing?
What quarter are you talking about?
Well, in the second half, you guys were able to get a couple of touchdowns, but it didn't seem like there was a lot of yards after the catch in those cases because they were pretty close to you guys.
I mean, that's their defense. We made plays and the ball got handed to us. We scored touchdowns. We passed the ball good. So, I mean, of course, it's the NFL. It's going to be bang plays.
Like, how frustrating is this for you just to lose this many straight and just not finish?
I think it's frustrating for everybody. I mean, nobody want to lose. I mean, we play this game so we don't lose. But, I mean, it comes with the territory that the game that we play, we're going to lose. You just got to find a way to win. I mean, it's as frustrating as it gets. You just still got to find a way to win.
How are you finding, as someone, like your rookie year coming out from a program with success, how are you finding it as a rookie just coming from a program with success?
I mean, it's new. I mean, but I would rather want to be coming up and trying to win than going to somebody just winning and not producing. So, I mean, you got to get it from the ground up. I mean, I'd rather come from the mud like I did regularly. So, I mean, it feels better when you come from the mud and you start winning successfully.
The second drive, you guys did a lot of running and went over 70 yards, I believe, on the drive.
What you mean, first quarter?
First quarter,
yeah,
correct.
First quarter, yeah.
What kind of emotional lift was that at that point? Did you think it was going to be a better day for the offense from that point?
I mean, I don't call plays, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you run the clock out in the first half, I mean, you're scratching in the second half to try to score points as many as possible. As an offense, you got to be versatile. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to pass. You can't pick between half and half what you want to do. But like I said, I'm not the play caller.
Do you think, you mentioned you'd rather be with a program that's, coming from the ground up. Do you think this, like where things are at now, they can still do that here? Or?
I mean, yeah, you just got to build. I mean, you got to build up. You got to put the right people in place to be successful. You got to get the right keys. You got to get the right guys on the team to win. I mean, obviously the Commanders have done that. I mean, they got the right guys that they want to be on the team and they're winning.
With you and Jaden had a long talk after each other. Catching up or?
Catching up, yep, catching up.
What did you think of how he played?
I know he played. Nothing different. I mean, lead his team to win. He's going to do that every time he steps on the field.
Did you say in the sideline after that one pass that was knocked out of the man, or, wasn't caught?
Which one?
There was one near the sideline right in front of the bench, and he came jumping off the bench and said something to you.
It was the DPI one, I believe.
Oh. I ain't going to say what he said.
888-808-1019. Let's go back to the phones. Justin in Dobbs Ferry has been holding the longest. Let's get to Justin. What's up, Justin?
Hey, what's going on? Going back to the analytics, just going back on a different, point. The Giants are scoring 14 touchdowns in the whole, in the entire, NFL, one of the second lowest in the league. They're averaging one touchdown every 48 plays compared to Ravens are averaging one touchdown every 14 plays. You can't get the ball in the end zone. You don't have any plays to get the ball in the end zone. Stop trying to do that. I understand the analytics. You get 10% more. That's with a real team. with a team like this, we're barely getting in the end zone. And when we do, half the time they get taken back on BS, like pass interference or pick plays. So it's like they got to figure out a way to get this ball in the end zone. These are the worst. The last 3 2-point conversions were the worst 2-point conversions I saw in the NFL probably in 5 years.
No, look, Justin, you're right. Look, they have to execute in those, and appreciate the call. They have to execute in those 2-point situations better. The strategy goes out the window if you actually execute the plays, which they have not been able to do. All right, let's go to Joe in Albany. He's up next. Hey, Joe.
Yes, hi. You guys have a great show. I've been a season ticket holder for 34 years. I just have a quick question and a comment. My question is, do you think Daniel Jones would waive his injury clause so that he can continue playing and prove himself to the league? And my comment is, on the 2-point conversion, it seems it would only make sense for the Giants if their conversion rate is 50% or greater. Other than that, it wouldn't make sense.
No, and look, and that's fair. If you don't believe that they can, succeed on those 2-point conversions, I understand why your opinion would be that way, but that's not – when you're a coach and you're game planning this stuff, you're going to have confidence in you guys to create those conversions. And that's the way the players think about it, too. They think that they can do this. They're not going to think about failing before they make those attempts. As for the injury clause thing, I mean – you negotiate that into your contracts for a reason. I would guess he would not be amenable to taking that out. But that's something that he would have to have that conversation and his agent with the Giants front office. So I don't have really an answer for you there.
It'd be foolish to do that.
And that's the player's perspective, which I would think what the player perspective would be. All right, let's take another quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Deontay Banks. Maybe we'll squeeze in another call or two on Giants Extra Point. Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22.
You're listening to Giants Extra Point on the WFAN Giants Radio Network.
This is Tyrone Tracy Jr., and you're listening to the radio home of Big Blue, The Fan, WFAN, and WFAN-FM New York.
Back here on Giants Extra Point, Giants fall to the Commanders 27-22. Guys, we want to take a positive out of this. Second straight week, the Giants ran the ball extremely well, ball led by Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy coming off of concussion protocol, and you'll remember, John, here we're during the week at practice, we're waiting to see how's he going to recover. When is he going to get out of the protocol?
Remember, short week from a Monday night game, too.
Yes. I mean, he got hurt in the Steelers game, and we truly had no idea what to expect. And then when we see that he's out there with the red jersey on Thursday, we're like, well, wow. All right, that's one step away from being able to be cleared. And then Friday he gets out there, and Coach Dable says he's going to practice today. He's got the red jersey off, which is the non-contact jersey. He's back in regular practice gear, and if things go well today at practice, he's going to go to the medical examiner, and if they clear him, we got to go. And lo and behold, it works out, and Tracy, in my opinion, ran as well as he ever has. I know the numbers were only a modest 16 carries for 66 yards, but look what he did in the first quarter when he ran for almost 50 yards by himself and was a one-man wrecking crew. I'm impressed with the way that he came back off of concussion protocol and did not show any tentativeness at all.
Yeah, he looked great. He's definitely a player that I think he continuously surprises me. We talked a little bit before about him and, his receiving background, and he looks like a running back. I saw him when I saw him in person for the first time. He got, nice, legs on him, like running backs do in the NFL. And today he ran hard. He ran physical. It wasn't too many times where he got to the second level, which we talked about in the pregame, where he can make a move on the linebacker, make a move on the safety.
Yeah, they were dirty yards here.
They were dirty yards. They were tough yards. I mean, his longest run was only 10 yards today. And everything else was just him lowering his shoulder, churning those legs. I think you saw that a lot from Eckler and what they did on that side. Washington, too. Washington got a lot of dirty yards, too. So, this guy, Tracy, man, he's a young kid. I think he's talented, and he only had one game with more than 20 carries, and that was last week. And he rushed for 145 yards. So, I look to see him being, a staple for the Giants. And returning after a concussion, you never know. The Tua is like the big thing that everybody talks about. Mm-hmm. He's going on his third one. And then Olave, I think he had another one today. He got carted off.
Did he have another one today?
I think he had 3 on the year or something like that. You never know what happens with these concussions. Sometimes the next day you feel okay. Sometimes it takes a month. Sometimes it takes 2-3 months.
Every concussion is different.
This guy, David Thomas, man, he was a a Texas tight end, then he came to the Saints. He had a really serious concussion. He had to retire from it, but he couldn't be out in the daylight for a long time. He couldn't be in the indoor with the
fluorescence
with the sound.
Oh.
He could not practice at all. He couldn't be in the indoor at all. He couldn't be under the bright sunlight. Couldn't do that I'm talking about for a very long time, and he ended up retiring.
Good news for the Giants. The reports after the game were that Smith Morset was cleared from a possible concussion.
Darius Slayton, though, did go into the
Slayton
protocol.
did go into the protocol.
And
so one out of the two players were cleared.
One of those guys might be able to be fine right now, tomorrow, or it might be the long thing. You just never know with these concussions. Fingers crossed for Slayton. Hopefully it's, not big, severe at all. He's back. He's fine. He's healthy. His brain is fine. He's remembering everything. He's talking. He could be outside. All of that good stuff because can't take these things lightly. We're just happy that, Tracy came back and the two guys that went down today, hopefully it's not that serious.
All right, we want to hear from Deonte Banks. He was involved in a couple of those key plays late in the first half in this game. Want to hear from Deonte Banks after this game talking about that touchdown he gave up to Terry McLaurin.
What did you see on the first touchdown to McLaurin, the short 1 or 2 yard run at the beginning?
It was just a little slant. It was slant. He's got to be better there.
Are you expecting any help there at all, or is that all you there?
Really just a bad play by the defense, bro. Like Ballas. Bad play by me.
What about the second touchdown?
Me, I just got to be better there. I just got to be better.
Did he just get behind you there? Or,
Yeah, he kind of I just got to be better there.
Is that are you playing like that little double move he makes there? I mean, is that something didn't expect him to do, or
I mean,
kind of did the cut?
I mean, not really, but I was trying to I was more so trying to use my contact to my help, and I kind of he got behind me using the contact, so I just got to be better there.
Why was it so hard for you guys just in general to stop them all day? They just seem to go moving the ball pretty well. What makes it so hard to stop them?
We just got to be better. We just got to be better on our guys. We just got to be better as a unit.
How frustrating is it that I think they punted once the entire game to not be able to?
Well, it's frustrating on our defense, but we're going to be straight. Just got to be better. We'll be better next week.
Well, I'll just say you can't contact the guy that far down the field anyway. That would have been illegal contact. Though I suppose you're at the end of the half. Just tackle the guy. I even think about that, right? Once he's getting past you, just pull him down. Pull him down. They have to kick the field goal. I didn't even think about that part of the play.
Yeah, I think the slant, the 1 yard slant for the touchdown. And by the way, how ironic is this, right? McLaurin only on the game catches 2 passes, and both of them go for touchdowns. Yep. Total of only 19 yards. But they're daggers, right? The thing that bothered me, Jonathan and I were sitting up in the box on the little slant that he caught for the 1 yard touchdown. And the thing that bothered Jonathan and I both is that he's up on him, up at the line. And we've seen Banks get beaten on that same slant now 3 times for touchdowns on the course of the season. And the troubling part is you're playing man, you're in press, and you don't jam him at the line. If he just gets a good jam on him at the line, remember, you got 5 yards to do what you want to do to him. If you give him a tight jam at the line, then he doesn't get that free 2-step release to cut it inside and slant you. And that's what doesn't make sense to me. Jonathan?
And no, but the thing is, he keeps saying we got to get better. But like you said, he's seen that play time and again. He's seen that exact play.
And he's a physical player. He's a physical player. So beat him up at the line. Beat him up.
You said get better, but you have to learn. That's how you get better. You learn from your mistakes. He's made the same mistake. That's why when we talked about it earlier, I was more mad about that play than the other play. I understand why you were mad about the sluggo who biting on the.
It's a situational awareness that
very
bothers me.
Very much so.
Fine.
But now this is a play that you've seen plenty of times. You're lining up against a top receiver in the NFL.
No, I
There's
get it.
2 routes he's going to roll. It's a now route, inside right now. It's not even a slant. It's a right now slant or it's a fade. That's it. And if you have another receiver next to you and y'all on the same level as a defender.
Yeah, if you're playing man there, is there any reason not to be physical at the line of scrimmage?
No. I mean, bro, you got to remember.
They can't run past you. The end line's there.
I was in the Super Bowl when Malcolm Butler made that play. If Malcolm Butler wasn't physical, that would have been a whole different play for the Patriots. I was in that game. That was me. I played in that game. Malcolm Butler was physical. Brandon Browner was physical.
Yeah,
That's how he made the play.
Browner was the one at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
That was the guy who made the
play. He
play.
drove on the play like you have to be physical down there. You can't just allow people to run freely. These receivers in the NFL are super talented. They're amazing wide receivers. You cannot allow them to get free releases down there because you don't have time to recover.
The one thing that this league gives you as a defensive player is physicality in the first 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they give you. Use it.
That is all they give you. All right, guys, we're off to Germany. Paul, you're going to stay back. I know you're going to be very regretful you're not making another overseas trip. I know you love going over to Europe, and you're heartbroken about it.
Have a beer and pretzels on me.
I will. Thank you very much.
So
I will be doing a lot of that, but I will be doing it responsibly. Thank you very much. I will represent the Giants podcast and radio crew very well out there in Germany. Guys, good stuff. Appreciate today. We'll talk to you next week. JC, you'll be here, and I'll be talking to you from Germany for our pre- and post-game show on the radio, which 7:30 pregame start, 9:30 kick.
Wow.
JC might not go to sleep tonight before after he goes out. I'm not sure how that's going to go. And the good news, he'll be on time, as he won't be sleeping.
I'll be at the facility early.
Does he walk in at 7:31?
Oh, man. So, again, make sure you tune into that next week. And for coverage of the Giants all week long, tune into Big Blue Kickoff Live. We're live every day at 12:30, taking your calls and talking Giants football with you. And check out the Giants Huddle podcast as well. Just search for Big Blue Kickoff Live, Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platform, Giants mobile app, Giants.com/podcast. Giants Extra Point was brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Citizens is made ready for Giants fans. Hackensack Meridian Health keep getting better. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. And brought to you by Moody's. Decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at Moody's.com. We'll be flying out with the team to Germany on Thursday night, arriving Friday morning, trying to sleep on the plane. And we'll have some stuff for you out there on Germany, too, on the Giants app, Giants social media platforms, Giants.com, all those platforms. Make sure you check it out. For Papa, for Banks, for Cross, for Dottino, for Casillas, our entire crew, excellent job, everybody. The Giants, unfortunately, fall to the Commanders 27-22 and are now 2-7 on the season. We'll talk to you from Germany next weekend.
I'm Peter Schrager, host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network and the Season with Peter Schrager podcast. Whether you're ordering wings for the game or you're whipping up a 7-layer dip or you're ordering a pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizzas to buy one, get one wings to whatever it is you want, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats is the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply, and see the app for details.
What's good? Justin Jefferson here.
Football is a lot of explosion, a lot of energy and attitude.
With these open earbuds,
to have good sound and to be so light on your ear, it's like a dream.
For more, check out Bose.com.